want to get your thoughts on a specific issue that popped up over the weekend. And this is another example of a fan bringing to my attention something that grew into a story. And that is that Courtland Sutton, who we all know had a phenomenal second year, over 70 receptions, just north of 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns, ended up in the Pro Bowl as a result of his performance. And he did so while playing with 3 different starting quarterbacks. But it was just brought to my attention, Zach, today, in fact, this morning. According to Pro Football Reference, Sutton led all NFL wide receivers in broken tackles on receptions. So he had 12 such plays, and he stood alone among wide receivers. There were multiple NFL running backs who had double-digit broken tackles on receptions. But the next highest wide receiver to check in was DeAndre Hopkins, and he had 9. So, it's not necessarily, world-changing insight here, Zach, but it just goes to show you why how the Broncos are thinking about this offseason, because everyone knows how phenomenal Sutton is as a vertical threat, right? Going up my ball, turning 50-50 balls into 80-20 balls, jumping in front of defenders in the end zone to score touchdowns, acrobatic catches and whatnot. But I think something that gets underrated is his ability to break those tackles, his physicality. And, that was somewhat muted down the stretch because no other wide receivers really, really stepped up. And so opposing defensive coordinators were able to bracket him and kind of stop him from getting those shorter dump offs that he could break tackles and whatnot. But if you catch the vision that the Broncos have here, Zach, of, all right, you got Jerry Jeudy, you got KJ Hamler, you got Noah Fant, you've got all these other threats. If even one of those guys on a given passing concept can win their one-on-one matchup, the next time they run that formation, the defensive coordinator is going to maybe not cheat and have a guy over Sutton. He gets his one-on-one matchups, and it ends up being a smorgasbord for Drew Lock to distribute the football. But just another example of how phenomenal Sutton was last year.
I think it's pretty significant because he can do his damage over the middle. Like you mentioned, he does his damage in coverage and snatching defensive back souls. He will wear you down in the end zone, in the red zone, over the middle of the field. I see a lot of Calvin Johnson in Courtland Sutton. Might be a little hyperbole to say that at this stage in his career, but he's going to be an all-time great Broncos receiver. I think he'll go down better than Demaryius Thomas. You might want to crucify me for that if you disagree. I think he will be when it's all said and done, especially with Drew Lock as his quarterback, hopefully the next 8 to 10 years. Huge fan of Courtland Sutton. I'm with Christy. He's my favorite Broncos player on the roster, and I love seeing these statistics because he's going to become a household name up there with the DeAndre Hopkins, up there with the Megatrons. Love Sutton.